Guys, it's me. Welcome back. It's me, Christina Johnson. I want to welcome you back to Lunchtime Love and Light Lessons on 108 Praise Radio. I want to thank you all for tuning in again. I'm so glad to have you guys back. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. This is an amazing show. We get to talk about everything from fearlessness to distractions to do I quit my job to follow my dreams? Come on now. So many great things are happening with this show, and I'm so appreciative for every listening ear. Today is kind of like last week. Last week I felt like was going to be pretty heavy. We had an amazing guest, Tia Billionaire, on, and she helped bring some light. We were talking about grief and grieving, whether it's an illness, a loss of an amazing job, a loss of a loved one. Because that's something that I personally have been going through recently as well. And it is heartbreaking, but we were able to bring light to that. And I'm hoping today will be the same. It's a subject that is near and dear, oh my gosh, and so close to my heart. Today we're talking about shame. And shame as it pertains to abuse. Because I am a survivor of domestic violence, it is so hard for me to talk about without getting emotional. I mean, all morning on the way over here, I was kind of emotional and touched at the same time because it's a hard subject to talk about, but it has to be done. And I posed a question online and I asked, why are survivors of abuse ashamed? And I got so many responses, you guys, so many. So I would love for a lot of you to call in today. I want to hear your wisdom. I want to hear your experiences. How were you able to move forward from abuse? How were you able to drop the shame? Put the shame aside to tell your truth. And one of the reasons that this touched me so near and dear is because someone that I love and admire so much came out recently and talked about her abuse and her abuser. And that's Andrea Kelly. A lot of you know Andrea from Hollywood Exes, which was a sister show to the show that I was on, Atlanta Exes. And Andrea opened up and talked about her abuser being her ex-husband, R. Kelly. And what I noticed immediately, I personally was so excited to hear that Andrea was speaking her truth, being honest about her experiences. And she's always put the shame aside. I've heard her talk about abuse in the past, but not name her abuser. But immediately it bothered me so much that so many people were coming at her like, why did she wait so long? Why is she now talking about it? Shame is real. And I don't really understand how a person or people could hear you talking about going through something so horrible, but yet blame you or criticize you for coming out. I am so extremely proud of Andrea. And so, I don't know, I have such an admiration for her vulnerability and her openness. And I really, really wish that a lot of people who go through this would be open to speaking their truth. So I want you guys to call in. The call-in number is 770-988-6461 because I would love, love, love to hear your feedback. I'm so excited about having this platform because this show is such a blessing. I'm here to bring love and light. I love to hear you guys also offer love and light. And I do that through awareness and wisdom on issues and everyday subjects that we tough out. And abuse is one of those. Having a background of abuse is something that has pushed me to be vulnerable and open about a lot of things in my life. I grew up around abuse, so it was very, very hard for me to see my own mom go through it and her to have a gun cocked to her head and, her being intimidated and her coming home with black eyes and things of that nature. It was so frightening as a child growing up around that. And a lot of us go through that abuse, and our children are allowed to see it. So I want to hear about you, how you got through it, if it was a childhood thing for you, because a lot of times we don't understand that we repeat the pattern, whether we become the perpetrators or we become the survivors, which I consider myself a survivor of abuse because I made it out. I feel like victims do not. You guys remember the story with Jennifer Hudson's family and how her I think it was her sister's ex who came back and killed their mother and also her sister's son and her nephew. So just dealing with that type of thing, understanding that victims don't make it out. I'm sure a lot of you may see people that you love and care about who are in these type of situations. And we're going to talk later about how do you help? How do you get them out of these situations when you love them, you want them to leave, but it's dangerous just to say, hey, just pop up and get out of there. There has to be an exit plan. There has to be a way to leave. But repeating these cycles are very, very hard. It's hard not to a lot of times, because I remember as a child being very, very afraid and always saying, I'm never going to allow my kids to see me go through this. I'm never going to allow anyone to do this to me. And I ended up being a survivor of abuse. So I want to hear from you. We have callers calling in already, which I'm super excited about. I want to hear what you've been through, how you've gotten through it. If you're still in it and you're wondering how to get out, it's very important for us to find a way to move forward from this abuse, because it's tough. It's tough, and especially when you're in love with this person. This is someone that you care greatly about. This is someone who's made it impossible for you to survive what you feel like is impossible for you to survive without them. So I would love to hear your stories, love to hear your feedback and your wisdom to help women that are, and men who are in abusive relationships and they don't know what to do or how to get out. A lot of times men also fall victim to abuse, but they don't talk about it as much because they're like, I'm a man. Who's going to listen to me or believe me if I tell them that I'm in a relationship with someone who is hitting me, who is abusing me? And it's all types of abuse. So I want to talk about all of those today as well. I'm going to take a caller now, and then we're going to go back and talk about the different types of abuse, because there are many. And I don't think one supersedes the other. Yes, it is horrible to see a person with a black eye, with a busted lip, with bruises, with stitches from, fighting. But it's also those scars that you can't see, the ones that are bruising your soul. And that's what I want to talk about today as well. Verbal and emotional abuse can be just as bad as physical abuse. And there's other things that are happening now that we want to talk about. So let's take our first caller. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from? Caller 8845.
Hi, sis. It's Tanya. I didn't know I was
Tanya.
supposed to call. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm good.
Good morning. How's it going? You said you're doing good. Awesome.
Yeah, so I want to, tell the world how I got through my abuse. I did go through some abuse growing up, and I got counseling, and I used to have issue with being afraid of the dark. Because I'm always feeling like somebody's watching me. So I had to talk to somebody about that, because I always had to go to sleep with the TV on. And even when I'm taking a shower, I don't even like taking showers. I always have to take a bath because I got to be aware, and I didn't want to be like that anymore. So I had to talk to somebody. And also I stay around people that are spiritually connected. You know what I'm saying?
That's
and
good.
So that's how I was able to get through all my hurt, and also I had to forgive it, you know.
So
I don't want to carry all that hurt.
do you mind if I ask you, like, how did you being afraid of being in darkness coincide with your abuse? What type of abuse, if you don't mind me asking, was it?
Because
Because I'm sorry.
go ahead, I'm listening.
What type of abuse were you going through that could? I'm just
Child
trying to
abuse.
find out the child.
Yeah, sexual abuse and child abuse, yes.
Oh, okay.
And it was always it was mostly in the dark. Me being in the shower, somebody always watching me through the window. And so that's what that came from.
Okay, I understand. I'm so sorry, but
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that you were able to move forward, and counseling was one of the ways that you were able to move forward from the abuse. And also, I love the way you said, and having people that had, that were spiritually aware around you so that they could help you through it spiritually as well.
Yes. And also, you know, you dealing with people that are going through the same thing, you're able to talk to each other and help each other through it.
Yes.
And moving on in life with love and, you know, being sexually connected with people, you know, you just got to make sure you're able to, you know what I'm saying? Like to be aware and be comfortable.
Right.
So, and I mean, it works. I mean, I still have little issues here and there every blue moon, but other than that, I'm good, you know, because I pray, I talk to the universe all the time, and I get a lot of love from my loved ones, and that really, really helps.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that's what I want people to realize is there is life after abuse. It is not the end all be all of your life, and you are able to move forward from abuse and still have an amazing life and an amazing quality of life. And that's one of the things that I try to show people through the way that I live is that you can come from an abusive background. You can go through abuse yourself. And whether it's watching your parent, your loved one, your sibling go through it, you can also, come through it on the other side. And going through divorce or breakups and all of that stuff, like in the midst of that, you have to understand that there's life after those relationships and life after divorce. So thank you so much for sharing, Tanya. That really means a lot. I love women that are transparent and able to understand that these things happen not only to us, but for us. It makes us greater in the end, and we're able to share it so that we can help other people come out of those type of situations.
Right. And I want to say one more thing before we hang up.
Okay.
You know, when people, what I've learned when it comes to child abuse with parents and all of that is it's a reason why. It doesn't make it right. So you have to sit down and think, why is this happening? Because you never know what their pattern was when they was growing up. And sometimes when you're pregnant, you deal with different hormones and stuff like that, postpartum and all. It's 3 stages of it. So that's what made me feel so much better in that area, because sometimes they don't want to do it, but they've been out and do it for their kids, you know, but all is forgiven. But I just want to tell people they need to really do their research on why parents abuse their children.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And again, it doesn't make it right, but at the same time, you have to be a little bit understanding and forgiving.
Yes, forgiveness is
because,
key.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Have an amazing day, sweetheart.
You're welcome. Love you much.
Love you too.
Okay.
So Tanya made some amazing points. She was saying she went back to figure out why this abuse was happening with, parents, and why do people abuse you when they are, she was saying they go through postpartum, they could go through certain things in their lives. And it's also, like I said, a learned behavior. A lot of times people that go through abuse end up becoming an abuser, or they're victims of abuse. And it's a learned behavior. It's not hereditary. We saw that with the things that Chris Brown also was going through and what he was learning from his stepfather. and the way that it came out in his life. And we have to understand that it does rear its ugly head in one way or another, whether you become the perpetrator or you become the survivor or you become a victim of abuse. I think it's important, like she said, to speak to other people who have been through it, people that are open and vulnerable and willing to talk about the abuse that they've suffered, because a lot of times we don't talk about it because we're ashamed. And I know in my situation, I was very ashamed because I wanted my relationship to look perfect. And it felt perfect a lot of the times, and a lot of the times it did not. And to the people that were around me who were like, oh my gosh, this looks amazing, you seem so happy. You want to keep that going for them. I think one of the reasons that I also didn't say anything is because you want to protect the abuser. When you love a person, you feel like, well, I don't want people to look at them in a negative light, or I don't want people to think horribly of them. So I'm just going to keep this lie going. And a lot of times we're ashamed of how it makes us look. A lot of people feel like, well, I'm going to look weak or I'm going to look stupid. I saw that in one of the comments this morning, actually. She was like, I don't want to look stupid. I didn't want to look stupid and tell them that I was dealing with this type of behavior. But you have to understand that the behavior isn't right, and it is not your fault. A lot of us stay for different reasons, and a lot of it is fear-based. Because when I used to go to Atlanta area schools and talk to kids about dating and domestic violence. And one of the sayings that we always use was, they beat you down before they beat you up. And it was talking about them tearing you down with their words, them making you feel less than. It's a process. Not everyone walks in the house black in your eye. You wouldn't date them. They have to come in showing their representative and making it look like a fairy tale so that you will stay in it. Eventually, that wears off. It's called the love hormone, or some people call it the honeymoon stage. It's like when you first meet a person and it seems so good, and they're doing the nicest things for you, and they're saying the sweetest things to you, and you feel like, wow, this is amazing. I cannot believe that I have met the one. And then after a while, they start doing things, and little by little, you may look over things. I always used to tell my kids, see things as they are, not what you want them to be. Because we have these red flags, we have these signs, we look past it, thinking, oh, okay, he was upset, he was having a bad day, or I shouldn't have said this, or maybe I did this and it pushed him, I upset him. And you keep forgiving it. And every time you forgive it, I feel like it gives them the okay to continue the behavior. And then after a while, you're in a full-fledged domestic violence relationship, and you don't realize how you even got there. So really understanding that is not okay for someone to talk down to you. Verbal abuse is just, to me, if not as bad as physical, it is worse. Because it's almost, I used to use the example like if you took a nail and beat it into a piece of wood and then you pull that nail out, the hole is still there. And that hole in your soul, people can't see from day to day, but it's there. That pain is there. You start to believe these negative things that you're being told about yourself and about who you are. And eventually, you start to believe it. So now you're allowing behavior that you wouldn't have allowed before, because now you don't feel so good about who you are. You've forgotten who you are, or you didn't know in the first place. And a lot of people that are abusive, they prey on that. I want to talk about other ways of being abused, because a lot of times people don't realize that they are being abused, especially young people I've met through going to Atlanta area schools and talking to kids. They're like, oh, he's just jealous. He texts me, I don't know, 20 times in 1 hour. That's too much. He doesn't want me to hang out with my sisters or my cousins or my friends. He just wants it to be me and him. Well, isolation is one of the biggest signs of abuse. when they don't want you to be around your family, when they don't want you to hang out with other people, because they don't want those people to tell you that what's going on isn't right. So they have to keep you isolated, away from people that are going to tell you that, hey, this dude is not cool, or this woman is not the one. So outside of physical abuse, there's emotional and verbal abuse, financial abuse. There's people who use money to control your every move. You won't be able to live. You won't. I mean, I've even heard where men have, and even famous men, like, locked women up and not been able, they can't eat, not give them food, or give them just enough, and keep them always needing and wanting them. Financial abuse is real. Sexual abuse, child abuse, cyber abuse, because kids are even taking their own lives because they're being bullied online, you know. And so I'm going to try to get to some of these comments online as well. Someone said, I agree, verbal and emotional abuse is so much worse than physical abuse. I really believe that, because it tears you down and it eventually makes you forget who you are, you know. And there's an amazing website. It's thehotline.org, and that site is so good to go on and find some amazing information, not only if you are being abused, but if you have family members and friends who are in abusive relationships, because we have to really understand that, like I said earlier, some people you cannot take, you cannot just ask them to leave the relationship, just walk out and just leave, because it could be dangerous for them. If you're with a person who is really, really dangerous, I mean, at the end of the day, they could try to take your life, not only yours, you know, the person that they're abusing and the people that love them. I remember showing a video of a lady who was dating a guy, and the family knew that he wasn't any good, but she stayed with him. He eventually not only killed her mom, but shot her, and she lost part of her face. So she has to put a prosthetic on every morning that, like, puts her nose back in one side of her face, because he shot her to murder her. But when they were leaving, they thought she was dead, and one of the EMT workers saw that she moved a little bit. She was still alive, but she lost half of her face. And now she's dedicated her life to, you know, coming out about domestic violence, because she lost her mom. The signs are there, and sometimes we think that it couldn't happen to us. But if that person is abusing you, more than likely it could go too far. I remember being in an abusive relationship, and his thing was to choke. And any one of those times, it could have gone too far, and I could have been choked to death. I am so glad that I was able to eventually leave that relationship, but it took a long time for those internal scars to be healed and for me to move forward. And a lot of that was because of shame. So I want to hear from you guys. Call in 770-988-6461. I want to hear about your shame, how you were able to put the shame behind you, if you're still walking in shame, because shame is really stifling. And it really isn't true. It reminds me so much of fear. It's kind of the same. They go hand in hand, because you fear being honest about where you are, because you feel like people are going to think you're stupid, or people are going to think you're, you know, not, oh my gosh, a gold digger. I'm with this person for what they're giving me and not because I'm in love with them, or they're going to think that you're not a good person, or look down on you. Whatever that is, we want to hear about it. So please call in 770-988-6461. Let's talk about the shame, because it is stifling a lot of people. When it does not matter what other people think, as long as you know that this is not right and you need to get out, you have to move forward. I have another caller, and so I'm going to take this call, but I want you guys to still call in. I want to hear from you. I had to send this out. This is good. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you guys so much for listening online, on the website, on the app. I'm so appreciative to have you here. I'm going to answer this call. Good morning, caller 6692. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Hi. Good morning, Tony.
Hi. Yes. Man, this topic, we've been talking about it. I knew you were doing the show, and then when I was about to call in, I got scared. That just goes to show you that, like, no matter how many years go by, how much time passes, you know, if you've ever been in an abusive relationship at all, it still puts some kind of, you know, flutter in your heart when you get ready to talk about it.
Amen. It
And
does.
for
It's
years,
scary.
for years, I didn't talk about it at all. I just sort of stuffed it away and went on about my life and thought that that was being strong. But it wasn't until a few years back when I started doing the womanosity thing with you, and, you know, talking to women about domestic violence more, and doing the Amazing Me, Amazing Life retreat and speaking to women there, that I was able to share my story, because for so long I just thought, I'm not going to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, but then I started to listen to other women talking about their stories, and then you realize you're not the only one. Because for some reason, you tend to think you're the only one sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, who's been through something, and then it's only when you do things like this, and that's why sharing is so important. Because there's so many women out there who feel like they're alone and like they're the only one going through this, and they absolutely aren't, you know?
That's right.
But mine started when I was a teenager, right about to be, you know, 20 years old. And I was in an abusive relationship with someone who I thought was my everything, who I thought I couldn't breathe without. Yeah. And I'm still breathing.
Amen. I'm still living.
I'm no longer with that person. I'm still living my best life at that. And but for so long, he had me thinking that he was my everything, which is a part of the emotional abuse. He isolated me from all of my friends and family. He, you know, to make me think that I had to just rely on him for my survival, you know? And even though I was and doing everything, you know, I was supposed to do, I still felt like I just needed him, you know what I mean? And he would do all kinds of things, like leave me at work for hours and hours, you know, when he was supposed to pick me up. And then his go-to thing was sort of, you know, choking. When he got angry, his immediate reaction, instead of talking about it, he would just put his hands around my throat. And, you know, it was a learned behavior for him because his father was abusive to his mother. And when I first met him, he didn't even speak to his father, you know, and he thought, I'm never going to be like my dad. Never, ever going to be like my dad. Wow. Well, the worst we ever got into was because the day I said, you're just like your father. And that was the day he pushed me through a glass shower door. Oh, my God. And that was the day I thought I was going to my life. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Take your time, honey. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. But it was like, you know, a lot of my family still doesn't even know this story. You know, I've not shared this story with a whole lot of people. Only recently, you know, did I start talking about it. But that moment that happened, and I thought that I was going to die because he choked me so long that all the breath was leaving my body and my eyes were rolling in the back of my head.
Take your
And I
time.
thought that okay, I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so
And
sorry.
it was like that moment when you see yourself outside of yourself.
Yourself.
I had
Yes.
a true epiphany. I literally saw myself leave my body, and I looked down at myself and said, "This is not you. This is not your life.
This is
You're
not your
not that
life.
girl."
Amen. Hmm.
And that was the day I felt like I reclaimed my own life.
Yes.
I took control of it. And
Oof.
no, this is not who you are.
Mm.
This is not who you're gonna be. And if you don't get out right now, you're gonna die.
Wow. Mm.
And he got so scared after, I went through the shower glass. Then it was like he just snapped and was like, "I'm so, so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I'm thinking he's really sorry, but really I realized he was just trying to
He
get
didn't
me
want
to
to get in
not call the
trouble.
police on him. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to be in trouble. And
Oof.
he took me to the hospital himself to make sure I was okay, because I could, I was trying to recover from not being able to breathe. And I remember the nurse saying, "I can call the police," like she's whispering to me, "Do you want me to call the police?" And I was so terrified of him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "No, no, no, no. Like, please, lady, be quiet." Like,
Yeah.
don't call the police, because I I was so scared of
Scared
him.
of
And people
him.
always
Mm-hmm.
ask, like, "Steve, or why would you had the opportunity?" Like, but you're so afraid in that moment of
Yes.
what he might do to you, because I felt like if the police arrest him and let him go, then he's really going to kill me.
Yes. Oof.
I thought he's really, really going to kill me.
Oh.
And so
Mm.
I was like, "Don't call the police. No, you know, um, I'm okay."
Yeah.
I just kept saying, "Okay." And they were asking me a whole series of questions that I later realized, oh, they know I've been abused, so they're asking me these questions.
Yes.
And I just kept saying, "No, I'm okay,"
Mm.
until I could get out of the hospital. Like, I really wanted to run away from the hospital, like, because I was so scared that they were going to get me in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
you're gonna make it worse. Like, and when you think about it later, you're like, "That's so crazy that I was thinking like that." But I really was thinking, if they call the police and they don't arrest this man, or they arrest him and let him go, he's gonna
Right.
kill
He's
me.
gonna kill me.
So,
Right. Exactly. Mm. Mm. Mm.
so
Mm.
I moved away, moved to a whole different side of town that I knew nothing about, but
Wow.
that was close to my job. So I said, well, at least I'll be close to my job. I moved into an apartment by myself, and I took every precaution, like I used to take different routes home from work, and, do
Mm-hmm.
all of these things that I heard about. I would read up on ways to protect yourself and survive. But I lived in fear for so many years, like,
Wow.
that he was going to show up. And one
Mm.
day he did. um, he was waiting outside of my apartment.
Wow.
And my dog at the time kept barking,
Mm.
and he was actually waiting outside of my apartment for me to come out. He had followed me home from work, I guess. That was the
Mm.
only way he could have known where I lived. And was waiting outside of my apartment, and it was
Wow.
just by the grace of God, somebody else was there to help me. He didn't realize I had company.
Wow.
Um,
So
yeah.
he actually tracked you down,
So,
found where you moved to, even though you were taking different routes home,
yeah.
trying to find ways to avoid him being able to track you down. He still was able to do that. And luckily, you did have
Yeah.
someone there that could help you fight him off so he wasn't able to harm you and the other person. And I thank God
Right.
for one, for your protection, two, because that out of body experience that you had when you saw yourself outside yourself when he was choking you and you were able to say, This isn't my life. This isn't how I'm supposed to be living. Because you were able to see the other side, you're still here. And I thank God for that, because you're such an amazing and remarkable person. And I couldn't imagine my life without you, you know, and that is just, I mean, it hits home because I know choking, that was something I went through as well. And it took me a very long time to even allow anyone to touch me close to my neck, like touch my shoulder, touch my, you know.
Yeah, I remember one time you said, well, have I ever hit you? You know, I don't hit you, like, but you choked me to death.
But
you know what I mean?
choking
Like,
me, and you can choke me to death. And
yeah.
I remember going through the same thing, but it wasn't the person who was choking me. It was their sister. A family member said that. Well, has he punched you? Or has he slapped you? Like, as if choking wasn't the worst thing ever. And so I understand that. And a lot of times it's hard for us to speak up on these things because of that type of thing, where people ridicule you. Oh, that's all? Like, oh, he only choked you. He didn't knock you unconscious. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't see a black eye. I remember having to wear button-up shirts to work and cover up my bruises on my neck and scratches and scrapes on my chest, because I didn't want my coworkers to see and know what I had been through. I remember being pushed down the stairs, you know, like, and it would be ways that you couldn't physically see a black eye or a swollen lip, but you would know that, you know, I had my own scars, like I said, whether they were physical and I had to hide them or they were internal. It takes a lot, like, out of you to go through that. And then the fear stifles you, because one of the reasons I decided to do this show, not only because of my history and other women that I know, was because of Andrea Kelly coming out and talking about the abuse that she suffered at the hands of R. Kelly. And I remember the first thing I thought was, well, because someone said, well, why'd you wait so long to talk about it? Or why'd she wait so long to talk about it? And I'm like, well, first of all, it was a covenant, and it ain't none of our business, really. She didn't have to come out and talk about it, but the fact that you're not applauding her in doing so baffles me. And it bothers me that other women who have suffered abuse and gone through abuse at the hands of other men would take the side of an entertainer as if they know it not to be true. You know what I mean? Like, that baffles me. And that, why can't fear stifle her? Just like how you said, I told the nurse, like, when she whispered to me and said, hey, I can call the police. The first thing you thought is, then I'm really going to die. And it stifles you. That fear is paralyzing. And a lot of times people don't talk about what's happened to them because of that fear. And a lot of times people don't talk about what's happened. So could you speak on that? Because what are your thoughts, Tony, as far as the Andrea Kelly thing goes and being stifled because of fear?
Well, first and foremost, let me just applaud Andrea for sharing her truth. Amen. Because it is your story to tell. And nobody has the right to tell you that you don't own the rights to your own story. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
I like
that's
that.
not fair.
Who can tell you don't own the rights to your own story? Okay?
Right. Yeah, and it's like re-victimizing the victim when you just instantly go to, oh, she must be fine, or she want to ride off some coattails, or she want to. What do you have to gain by telling this hurtful ass truth? I'm sorry. That's okay. It's like, it's just so painful. And it's like, why would you want to share these hurtful stories? So that's why a lot of women wait so long. It took me, I'm 44 years old, and I probably only started sharing the story in my 40s,
Right.
At 40.
Wow.
It might have been the first time I spoke on it.
Because a young lady, happened to me when I was just going to say that. I was going to say, piggybacking off of what you said, but there was a comment someone left on my social media page last night that says, if you wait 20 years, because you said I'm 40, I just started sharing, 44, and I just started sharing this story 4 years ago. And a young lady said yesterday, she was like, if you wait 20 years to tell your story, that just means you're trying to hurt the person or throw them under the bus. And I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
It's almost comical, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you don't even understand the half of it, and it's just so judgmental, really. And we don't have the right to judge.
We don't have the right to judge.
And people go through their own private things, that they don't share with anybody, and it's not always abuse. But so imagine when it is abuse and you don't share with anybody because you're so ashamed of what people will think of you. It's like, it's a shame that's what happens. It's like the tables get turned.
Yeah.
You become more afraid of what they're going to think of you for staying in a situation or for not leaving the situation. I mean, like, I left this man, and moved away, and then, he still found me. And I don't know what would have happened that day. And I'm glad I don't have to know what would have happened
Absolutely.
that day had I not had someone there to protect me. Because, this man parked his car outside of the gate, walked through the bushes, and stayed outside of my house and waited for the door to open for him to bum rush me and wrap his hands around my throat.
So he had every
Once
intention in harming you.
Every intention.
Yes.
And the police even said it when he tried to say, I just wanted to talk to her. I just wanted to talk to her. The police said, oh, really? You just wanted to talk? Well, why is your car parked outside of the gate? Why didn't you park
Why
right
didn't you
in front
park
of the
in
house?
park in
Why
the
didn't
parking lot where she would be
Why
aware
didn't
that
you
you
knock
were
on the
out there?
door?
And he did not knock on the door. He hid on the side of the house until you opened the door.
That's right.
Ugh.
And so your intentions were evil. So
Yeah.
it's like, but then you would still have people who want to blame you. Well, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? Even when my car got stolen, people said, well, why didn't you take your keys out of the car? Why didn't you lock your car? Why didn't you do this? In hindsight, that's easy to say. You know what I'm saying? But I've been that for over 20 years, and I always do things that way.
Right.
But yes, now I do things differently.
Exactly.
I take my whole purse out of the car. I no longer leave it in the car. But when you're right there by the pump, right there by your car, you don't feel like you have to do all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's the same sometimes when you feel like a person is supposed to love you and that they're telling you that they love you and that they care about you. You don't think you have to do all of that.
Because,
you know what I mean? You don't think you have to be protecting yourself like that.
And I think it comes from trust. You learning to trust this person.
Yeah.
You seeing yourself protected by this person in other circumstances. So you're saying, okay, we're in a committed relationship. I can trust you. I love you. I can put my guard down. And then once you put your guard down, the worst thing in the world is to find out that the person that you thought you could trust with everything is the one person that you have to be afraid of. That is the worst.
And some people will say they're an entertainer. They're like, oh, well, did you stay because of the stuff? Or did you, because I'm sure you knew he was abusive already. Come on, everybody, when you meet somebody, whether they're an entertainer or not, you meet that person's representative at first.
Exactly.
And so it's not always that way. They're not going to just show you their ugly head right off the bat. Yep. They're not going into the situation, choking you out and doing crazy stuff.
Exactly.
They're whining and dining and doing everything. They're courting you.
Yeah.
So in that courtship, of course, you're not going to see that. And sometimes it doesn't happen until after you actually marry the person and they start showing you who they really are because they feel like now I got you.
Absolutely.
You're not going nowhere. You're mine.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
so things change, you know, like, and so I say to the people who always are asking the question, well, why didn't you leave? Or did you just stay because of stuff? Or did you just, that is not always the case. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
So I wish that would stop being so judgmental, you know, and that's just.
Yeah, drop the judgment. You know, that's the biggest thing is how can you judge when you don't know the person's situation? And for people online, Tony was just saying that even if you're married to an entertainer, they think, oh, you just stayed with him because of the money or the travel or the stuff. But you didn't walk into the door and they were jumping on you. Like, they still court you and date you and show you a beautiful side of things, even themselves, because initially when you're dating anybody, whether they're in the entertainment business or not, you're meeting their representative. So you're coming into this situation meeting who it looks like they are, you know, falling in love with a fake, you know, persona. And then later on, once you're totally in love and you're all in, despite the stuff, you know, and this stuff starts to rear its ugly head. I mean, what do? You know what I mean? Like I said before, in any abusive situation, it's hard to just pack up and just run. Some situations can put your life in serious danger, so you have to be mindful and have a safety plan, an exit plan, and a way to leave. Like Tony was saying in her situation, you know, she went different routes going home. You know, she had to watch her surroundings because she was living in fear. She was running away from her abuser. She had to be mindful of who she told and what she said in order to leave it and leave with her life. So, Tony, I thank you so much for your vulnerability, your openness, and having this candid conversation with me, because I know, trust me, I understand. It is not easy to talk about this stuff. And, you know, growing up under it, I saw it. Being in that type of situation, I saw it. And just working on my memoir, I have a memoir that's coming and about to put that out. It brings upon a lot of fear because you're able to open up and talk about the things that you've been through and talk about your truth. But it's scary. It's extremely scary. So I'll say that again. Tony, were you saying something?
I said it is very scary, but, you know, it's so necessary.
It's very necessary.
I'm grateful for platforms like this and open forums where you can talk and share and feel safe to talk and share. And I encourage women out there who have been silenced by shame to speak up, you know.
Yes,
and it doesn't have to be on an open platform, but speak up to someone, a professional that can help you through it, because the sitting in the silence and shame is not, it's very stifling and it doesn't promote growth, you know. And so we're here for a purpose, all of us. And so I just encourage those women out there who are afraid to talk and have been silenced by shame to speak their truths and remember that you own the masters of your own story.
You own the masters of your own story. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much, Tony. I love you so much. And I'm extremely proud of you, baby.
I love you too.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I love you so much.
Okay, we're going to take another caller because our lines are blowing up. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, Brayley. Can you hear me? I see that it's Brayley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, perfect. I think I had you going on two different phones. I'm just calling in this morning for every brave woman who's called in, and for every brave man who is probably holding on the line who wants to call in. To God be the glory.
Yes.
For, you know, like I like to call shaming the devil.
That's right.
Let's just shame him to pieces. As Tony was talking, I said, oh my God, I've been reminded me of other relationships that did different things. And I was like, oh, my God, he did that, and then he did that, and then he did that. And I was like, my Lord.
Yes.
My story is I've never felt like a victim. And I wonder if there's any other women out there like that. I've never felt once like a victim. Why? Because I always fought back or participated.
Right.
And I know that sounds ridiculous and crazy, but that's my truth. If I was physically, like, hit, punched or something, then I would punch back, or I would get a lamp and knock it over your head.
Yeah.
So I never felt victimized, so I never thought I had an issue with abuse. Like, it's the craziest thing. Like, no, I wasn't. Now I'm older and wiser. I was abused. Even though instead of cowering down, I actually abused them back.
Right.
And then I find myself being verbally abused, and in that verbal abuse, I don't just take it and kind of think about it and meditate on the things that have been said. I have had the tendency to oh, that's what you said about me? Watch this, what I'm going to say about you. And so I've actually become, someone that does the same thing back. So, there's some healing that needs to happen in our lives with however you think about your abuse, whether you're ashamed to talk about it or you're doing, just the opposite like me. Well, you don't think you're abused because you actually became an abuser in that relationship too.
That's right.
And those are both horrid. They're horrid ways to live.
Wow.
And it's a shame. Like I said, there were relationships I don't even consider when I speak about my abuse. There's a couple of relationships that I key in on. But as Tony was talking, I was like, oh my God! I literally thought of other relationships that I hadn't even considered that I was abused in.
Wow. And that's amazing.
I'm just like,
because as you're saying this, people are saying Brayley is me. Because sometimes just you go into protective, you have this protective mechanism. You're like, okay, so you're saying this, I'm going to fire back and say this, and it's just you protecting yourself. But there's nothing worse, like I was telling Tony before, there's nothing worse than falling in love with a person, feeling like this is the man of your dreams. He's courted you and you're in love, and you put your guard down, and then, or woman, and then they're coming at you with these fiery words. And like I was saying earlier is, the outside bruises you can see and they heal themselves, but those inside emotional and those scars that hit your soul are the ones that are so tough to heal, because those are the ones that you can hide easily, and those are the ones that people can't see. And when those darts are coming at you, it's natural to block them, and a lot of us do that. We block them with, a rebuttal in some type of way. So thank you so much for sharing that, Brayley, because that is huge in understanding that, we may not even notice that we're abused because we're so busy blocking and attacking back, not even understanding that this is really happening to me. I'm being torn
Isn't that
down.
something? That's such a trick of the enemy right there.
It is
like,
a trick of the enemy.
Oh, my gosh.
And a trick of the mind.
Ooh.
I was saying at the same time. Whoa.
Yeah, a lot of times when I see these shows, talk shows on, I really appreciate you for this topic, because I see the shows on TV and, the talk shows and things, and even radio shows, and they really focus in on that physical abuse.
Yes.
But that dang on verbal abuse.
That verbal abuse is deep, honey. And that's why I was saying
it runs deep.
It runs deep because, like I said, it's deep down. People can't see it. You can hide it. You can talk yourself off. Oh, he didn't mean that. Or maybe I shouldn't have said this. It was my fault. And not really dealing with hey, that's not okay. And this is not love. When I think about in Corinthians, when it describes love, there's nothing negative. As a matter of fact, it tells you what it's not. It's not boastful. Love is kind. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, I'm out. And that's another thing, just running, coming out of an abusive background, like it's also protection to just run. Like when you see the signs of anything, you're like, okay, I can't. I'm out. And it's very, very hard. Like one of our first shows, it's very, very hard to love again and to forgive. And I think the biggest person is the hardest to forgive is yourself. And understanding that we all, fall a victim to these things. We all love deeply and sincerely, and sometimes we deal with a lot of things that we shouldn't. And I think we need to forgive ourselves. It's okay. It's okay. And getting to the core of why do I want to be loved to the extent that I would deal with this, I think is important. Because I grew up like that. Like, I just want to do everything for everybody so that they will love me, so that I can get that love, so that I'll accept this. I'll be okay with this because I just want to be loved. And just getting to the point where you understand that it's not healthy is so important.
And speaking to the getting out, just in case, people are listening and they're wondering, how to get out, or I remember my god sister was terribly verbally abused and physically abused, and she got to a point where she had enough. And when I knew, we would tell her to leave all the time, but it was a marriage, and so covenant, it's really hard. But when she had enough and she was ready, I was ready for her. I got in my car. She said, I'm ready. That's all she had to say. I got in my car, went over there, we packed her stuff, and she left. Yes. So for all of those out there, please be on standby for your friends and loved ones.
Absolutely.
When they're ready, please be ready. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning or it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Be ready when they're ready. Please rescue your loved ones from these, these abusive relationships, because without your help, you might be going to a funeral, and that's just real talk.
And that is real talk. Amen.
Yeah, so be ready when they're ready. And a lot of time, and don't lose courage when they're not ready, because that, you get tired of hearing about it, seeing it yourself, and you're like, oh, here we go again.
Right.
But people just, when they're ready, we got to be ready. And I remember getting in my car, he a man, and he's a big man too, and I just had no fear. I was like, what am I going to do if he jumps on both of us? I don't know. But I don't know, God just gave me the power to be, and he wasn't home by the time I got there. But we got in that, we were able to pack the car and get out of there before he returned.
Wow. And
it was just the best thing. And I was, I don't know, I just turned into, well, she's ready. So, what I'm going to do? Okay, I'll be there tomorrow. No, you got to be in that moment. So
exactly.
Please, have an immediate exit plan. Just be on guard.
Absolutely.
So I love you. Love your
show.
I
love you, sweetheart. And
love
thank you,
Brayley.
I love you so much. Thank you so much for that wisdom. We really appreciate
Bless you.
And thank you for your vulnerability as well. It makes you so beautiful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
No, thank you. All right. Bye.
So, yes, Brayley made some amazing points. If you have family, if you have friends that are going through this, please just acknowledge that you understand what they're going through. Let them know it is not their fault. One of the things that Tony said that also can be helpful is to be non-judgmental. Respect their decision. Respect their decision to stay, and when they're ready, like Brayley said, be on ready and make sure that you can help them out. Respect their decision, not being judgmental, pointing fingers, but being a support. And if they end the abusive relationship, continue to support them. They still may mourn and grieve the relationship. That's what we do. It's the end of something. There is going to be grief. Support that. You can't say, oh, boy, why you still tripping over that girl? She wasn't good for you anyway, and this, that, and the third. Allow them to grieve, because that is part of the healing process. And in order to heal that, you're going to have to allow them to get through it. Encourage them to participate in other activities outside of that relationship, outside of anything that they're used to. Just encourage them to get involved into some more amazing things. And also, don't be afraid to allow them to talk about it. Getting it off of them, like Tanya said earlier, is so important. To find people that are spiritual, like who know the word, people who are able to help you through this transition. It's very important. And remember, it's always important to have a safety plan. And making sure you have a plan of action, because it's really, really hard to just up and leave a lot of the times. When you're dealing with someone who's abusive, they don't want to lose. And some of them will try to take your life. So leaving is absolutely worth it for you women or men that are in abusive relationships and are afraid to leave or trying to figure out, like, is there life after this relationship? There most definitely is. Understand that this is a test, and to spell testimony, you have to first spell test, T-E-S-T. And in order to get through this, to move forward, understanding that this is not just happening to you, even though it's happening for you, and there is life on the other side. I know it's hard to move on after a breakup, but it is worth it. Leaving is worth it. Resist looking at their social sites once you leave, because healing needs to take place, and you going through their Facebook trying to see who they talking to, who they're seeing. Just remember why you left and what that person is about to get. Okay, because a lot of times we look at the outside like, oh, now she got the stuff, and she got the ring, and she got the wedding, and she got the man. Honey, 9 times out of 10, she also got all of those problems, okay? And she is dealing with all the stuff that you no longer have to. So make sure that you stay focused on that. Write a letter with your feelings if you feel, when you feel betrayed. I feel like writing has always been so healing to me. Write it down. You don't have to mail it or send it to the person. You could set it on fire. You could tear it up, throw it in the trash. You could put it in a book to later go back and read what you once felt. But look for counseling or therapy and try your best to move forward, knowing that there are people out there that can help you. And as far as a safety plan, you have to find a way to leave. How to cope with your emotions. Please tell friends and family that you trust about the abuse. Take legal action. If you have to, please find someone that can help you through this, because there are agencies, domestic violence agencies, and people that are out there that can help you devise a plan to leave, that can help you with your exit plan, that can give you the skills to heal and to cope. And one of those is called the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and their number is 800-799-SAFE, S-A-F-E, 1-800-799-SAFE. I want to take a few more callers. I'm going to try to get 2 in before we leave. We always run over. I can't help it because these subjects are so good, and we have so many people that are calling with such amazing info. So we're going to take another caller right now. I'm excited. Hello, caller. How are you, and what is your name? You're calling from 718 area code.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Yes, I'm calling from the Bronx. My name is Blondell. I am Blondell.
Hi, Rondell.
And hi, how are you?
Wonderful.
I'm calling, yes, because this is such a great topic.
Yes.
Very touchy. And, I mean, I know I just wrote on your live that me growing up, I used to hear older women say, if a man didn't hit you, that means he didn't love you.
Oof.
And with hearing that, I believe that because I was in such an abusive relationship. I mean, he beat me every chance he got. Every chance. And I was too afraid to tell anyone. And like you said earlier, like I couldn't be around friends, everything. Anything I did, it had to be with him.
Yes.
Even to the point where, yes, isolation, and I got pregnant by him, but he was beating me while I was pregnant, lost the baby, etc.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And, I mean, yeah, used to kick me in the stomach, did everything he could. Until one day, I mean, I had to realize, like the other young lady said prior, when you sell yourself outside of yourself, when he put a gun to my head with one bullet and said, if I can't have you, nobody else will. And he played Russian roulette with my life.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, okay, this is not love.
Yeah.
It's time to go.
it took a long time for him to leave me alone. It actually took me finally opening up to my family and telling them and them approaching him.
Yes.
But prior to that, I mean, I was stalked every minute. Everywhere I went, like, I'm trembling right now talking about this, even though it was so long ago. Because every now and then I would still run into him, and I still wonder, like, are you just going to hit me just because?
Oh, my God.
You know.
Oh, my
So I just wanted to share that story.
Thank you so much for sharing. I am so sorry that you had those experiences. So you told your family that this was happening and everybody confronted him. What was your first steps to healing and getting back to yourself and, you know, loving yourself again?
Honestly, you know, this is my first time, like, talking to someone outside of my family about this. And meaning, to me, you're like a professional, not going to see a therapist or anything.
Yeah.
And I just had to find self-love.
Yes.
I dealt with it with finding self-love, like, you have to love you more.
Amen.
And I found myself and just kept going from there, just going.
Wow.
And that's what I did, because even with telling some of my family members, they said the same thing. You were stupid. How did you stay? How you let somebody abuse you like that? How could you be so dumb? Like, you should have known better. And that's one of the reasons why people don't want to open up, because people judge you so much.
Absolutely.
And I was like, whoa, this is exactly what I didn't want to hear. Exactly. But as I heard it, it made me stronger, and it made me empower other people, because I have a daughter. And even when her and her brother fight, I jump on him, because I'm like, no one, I don't care who it is, no one is going to abuse my child.
Wow.
Because it just reminds me of what I went through.
What you went through, absolutely. And I know in my situation, that's how I felt. I never want to get any of my children. I never want to try to tell one of my daughters, now they're grown-ups, you know, don't accept this behavior, but yet this is the behavior that I've allowed them to witness and made them feel like it was okay. So, you know, them being very young, I just felt like, you know, I'm going to have to leave for you guys, so that, because I feel like as parents, the greatest lesson we can teach our children is how to love through the way that we love in our relationships. So just being that example of love for children is so important. And what you're teaching your son is, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's a female, you don't put your hands on her. Keep your hands to yourself. So through what you went through, I'm sure so many people around you were changed that you don't even realize. A lot of times we don't realize that we're going through things for other people as well. And I thank you so much, and I feel honored that you would take this opportunity to share this story with us, and knowing that you've only shared it with your family. I really, really appreciate you. I'm going to be praying for you, Rondell, and I really, really love you. Thank you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Okay, sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, guys, we're going to take another caller. Hello, good morning, 8553. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Andrea.
Hi, Drea.
I'm calling from Atlanta. Hey.
You were dropping some gems online, and then my phone died on Insta story, and so I wasn't at Instagram Live.
I saw that. I was like, oh, my God, I can't go live.
Yes, thank you so much for calling.
That's all. Listen, this one. You know, my when Braylee, I was listening to Tony, and I was just like, well, I just want to ride up and roll up and go find him and beat him up.
Okay.
I was in those relationships where, put your hands on me, you gonna lose them hands. You know what I mean? And I was listening to the last call, and I was just like, I had to say, wow, because he was like, well, she grew up. The older people telling her if he didn't beat you, he don't love you. I never heard that. I always heard if he beat you, you beat his ass back. Excuse my language. You beat him back.
Yeah.
Or you get away from that situation.
Right.
That's nothing that you're supposed to be in, because nobody is supposed to put their hands on you ever.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's that's once we start putting hands on each other, that means we gotta leave each other, because we're not meant for each other.
This is not healthy.
Because it's not healthy, and it's not love.
That's right. It's
and
not.
And you have to understand what love is.
Oof.
I went through a relationship where my kid's father, and I used to love his dirty draws.
Yeah.
But he did some things to me, and I was just like, okay, this is where we're going. And he had threatened to kill me. I had to move out of my house because somebody tried to break in.
Wow.
And dealing with people in the industry, especially if they're rappers, if they got a little notoriety, they got a lot of notoriety, it don't even matter.
Right.
You need to know who you're dealing with.
That's right.
He kidnapped my daughter.
Wow.
And they were missing for 2 years.
Oh.
I was going through something, and when I say I went through hell, but I didn't go. I went through hell, and at the same time, my older sister, on February 14th, was murdered by her boyfriend.
Oh.
And she wasn't the type chick that you would think that would ever happen to, because she, that was, we didn't have the same mother, we had the same father.
Okay.
But we always said that's my sister. He shot her and he stabbed her. He cut off her hair.
What? I'm so sorry.
She was not the girl. Yeah, she was not the girl who would be in that situation. So I thought. So many of us thought. Her sisters and her mother that was living with her. Never. My niece was like, Linda? No, that doesn't happen. No, that wouldn't have never, like, Linda, like my sister, no.
Right.
And it can happen. It was my older sister. She died. The hurt from that. And I was going through the same thing. I was still searching for my daughters. And he showed up when I got them back. He actually was casing the house and showed up. And the guys outside, I live in the hood, they were strapped. They pulled up like, why you out here? What
Wow.
What's up? Because he was casing. He was staying up. They thought he was 5 up. They was going to roll up anyway. He gets out, and I pull up on him. Now, I had left the house. They were inside the house. I'm pulling up with Andrew, and I'm like, what are you doing outside of my house? And they running down the street, and they got their guns. They like, yo, he been casing the house. Who is that? I'm like, he ain't supposed to be here. He ain't supposed to be around here. I have a restraining order.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it for a while. Because it was me and Michael. He would call. People do things to you.
Yeah. To
get your attention, and because they are low key jealous. You never know what's going on with them. Yep. But with my sister, when he murdered her, all I wanted to do was kill that man.
Yeah. And whatever
literally,
happened
I had
to him?
learn. He went to jail because he got his neighbor. He called the neighbor to help dispose of the body, but the neighbor called 911.
What?
Thank God. Yeah. And so, as when we went to court, all I could do was like I had a whole out of body experience. I was going to hell in a handbasket because I was going to rip his head off in the courtroom, like instantly in the courtroom. And I had to ask God, because at that time I had to ask God to forgive me, to heal my heart, and to take that hatred away from me because it was consuming me.
Yeah, understood. I understand that.
It was consuming me.
Wow.
It consumed me to the point where I literally, all I could dream about was killing this man. All I could do. That was it. That was my whole, like, people, they was like, They couldn't get me to, I couldn't talk. I couldn't talk. I couldn't formulate it was hate. It was pure hate. And when hate runs in your veins, you're hot. And I was hot.
Okay.
And I'm a cold, I'm always cold.
Yes, you are.
So at that point, I'm always cold. I'm always like, oh, I need to cover. No, I was hot. Like, I felt it running through my veins daily. I would wake up. I couldn't sleep. My son was just like, Mommy, I love you, but there's something really wrong with you. Lord. And I feel like that's part of how we get so intertwined.
Yeah. With that hatred and that, it's so scary. My heart goes out to any parent, sibling, friend, close friend of anyone who has lost their life through the hands of another person, through abuse, murder. Like, I can't even imagine the pain, like you're describing, that family goes through to lose someone, especially when you've tried to tell this person not to stay. And a lot of times I think victims feel like, well, they're not going to kill me. We've been through this before. We go through this all the time. We fight, we argue. But he's not going to take my life. And you don't know in the heat of the moment, like I said before, whether it's choking, beating, what can transpire. A person can snap and go too far, and then it's too late. Like, there's no coming back from that. So, again, thank you so much for sharing that, Andrea. I'm so sorry for the loss of your sister, and I'm so glad that God brought you out of your own abusive situation, and you were able to get your daughters back, because I can't even imagine that, having someone kidnap my children for years, like for 2 years, and you don't know if they're okay or their whereabouts, and you're trying to find them, and I can't even imagine what that was like. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having this, because this is when I say this one was, I was just like,
yeah, this is a biggie. Like, I'm gonna try to get Christy on here. If you guys don't know, Christy, who was burned by her ex with acid on her face.
Yes,
she's such a
I met her.
Powerful speaker, a powerhouse. And now she's using her life to bless others. And that's what it's about, is just understanding that God has a plan for your life. And even if we make decisions, because we have free will and we do things our way, it's still happening for us. It's happening for your good. You just can't forget who you are. Understand that you are God's child. So no matter what, you are blessed. You are a child of the King. Therefore, it is your inheritance to live your greatest life. And if you're stuck in these situations that aren't healthy, it's not the place for you. And there is life after abuse. There is life after divorce.
You could live if you can get out.
Absolutely.
My first child was conceived out of rape.
Wow.
But he's here today, and he gave me a grandchild.
Wow.
See, things that were meant for the devil to when I woke up, because I was out, he knocked me out.
Wow.
When I woke up, I got out of there. I don't know how I got out of there. I got out of there. But I didn't. It took me years to tell even what happened.
Yeah. Because the shame of it is what we're talking about today. It's like releasing that shame and us having shame from being victimized. And it doesn't make sense.
You gotta let it go.
Let it go, and allow other people to go through it without your judgment.
Yes.
Rondell had just called, and she was talking about, even her family members were saying, "How could you be so stupid? How could you let this happen?" And coming at her, and she was one of the few.
That's the way.
Yeah, she was one of the few that was strong enough to take that and use that as to empower herself. But a lot of people don't. They ball up in shame. They hold on to it. They don't talk about it ever again. It comes out in different circumstances in their lives and the way that they handle things. So it's important for us to understand nothing is for nothing. I believe things happen for a reason. And it's important that once you leave, you have to trust. I believe that trust is so important, trusting God and knowing that he has a better plan for your life. And once you leave, it's just the beginning. It's the new beginning. And though it takes time. It's like PTSD, really. It takes time to get past that fear and that, like Tony was saying, living in fear of them popping up. And even Rondell said sometimes if I would see him, I would be like, is he going to just hit me just because? Like, and just not knowing what life is going to bring and understanding that trust the process of life. Tragedies happen to us to shape us. It's up to you what you do with it. And I was talking about that yesterday online. I did a live and I was saying, like, me and the girls that were on my show, my friends were talking about, sometimes people would be like, you can't be this nice or you can't be this good-hearted or this loving. And it's like, I could be anything any other human being can be. I just choose peace. I just choose love. I just choose everything that I want to reflect in my life. Because it comes back. Everything you put out comes back. And I just want to say to people that are abusive, whether it's men or women, there's help out there for you as well. This is not okay. A lot of times it has nothing to do with the victim. It has everything to do with what the abuser feels and how the abuser feels about themselves. And it's important for you to get the help that you need because it's not okay. And you see yourself with this amazing
because a lot of times
prize.
they've been abused.
Yeah, you're abusing because it's a learned behavior. That's what I was saying earlier. It's because you've been abused, and now you're taking that pain out on someone else, which is totally not the way to go. You see yourself with this amazing gem of a woman or this amazing king of a man, and yet you're upset all the time because of the power that they have and they possess. It's because you feel less than.
And it's intimidating.
But if you were to heal and step up in your own power, you would realize that you have and are everything that you need. You have everything that you need, and you are everything that you need. So, Andrea, thank you so much for sharing. I love the vulnerability. I love the wisdom. Thank you so much, and I love the support. Thank you.
You're welcome, my love.
I just want to say that I love you, baby. That next week we're doing a show on social media. This is going to be so good. We're doing a show on coveting because a lot of times we look at social media, and for those of you that said you haven't, I don't believe you. We look at social media and we see other people living a certain way, and we don't want to believe that our lives are good enough or that that person may be a victim of abuse, or you don't know how they got this free trip. It could be a forgiveness trip for something that he did wrong or she did wrong, and now they're taking them out for that. But you didn't see the black eye, but you didn't see the terrible words. Like, it's not okay to covet. So next week we're going to talk about social media. And have you looked at someone's social media before and felt like your life wasn't good enough? Our Wisdom Wednesdays, and I'm going to say this because it'll get the ball rolling on the subject next week. I got this from Tony Acey when we were in Mexico this past weekend. We were there for 5 days and 4 nights. And Tony said, don't spend all day scrolling the timeline of other people's magical moments. Go out and create some magical moments of your own. And I love, love, love that. Go out and create some magic of your own. So next week, we're going to talk about social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram envy, and social media envy is real. And we're talking about that next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Christina Johnson, and I love you. Thank you for listening to Love and Light Lessons. And I want to give you my social media on Facebook. I'm Christina Johnson. My website is ChristinaSJohnson.com. You can find me on YouTube under Christina Johnson. I have a YouTube channel, and please go to my BEFXmakeup.com website to find amazing lip colors. I'm wearing Pop That Pink. It's probably off because I've been drinking tea this whole time. But I love you guys so much, and I appreciate your support, and I cannot wait. Next week, I think, is a holiday week, so I won't be doing the new show until the following week, the following Wednesday. So next week, it'll be one of the amazing shows that you probably didn't get to see. So please check it out. And the following week, we'll be back, and we'll be talking about social media envy. I love you guys so much, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.